Good morning, pre-algebra. So here is our joke for today. What do you call a man with no arms and no legs who is in a leaf pile? Well, playing in a leaf pile, that's what it is, playing in a leaf pile. Well, you call that man Russell. That's right, his name is Russell. All right, I am on page 349 in your textbook. Now, this is going to be a similar looking kind of problem. We're going to be talking again about proportions, but we're going to move in the idea of percent to help us find, using proportions to help us find percent. So I think it's going to be pretty easy to catch on, and so let's get right to it. Over here, you'll see your assignment as well as it's up on the board. But let's get started. I'm on page 349. So here are the kinds of problems we're going to see. It reads, 12 is what percent of 32? 12 is what percent of 32? So we are comparing 12 over 32 to a percentage. So what do you think would be the way that we set up our proportion? I'll add this. You get it yet? I'll add this. You get it yet? I'll add that. What do you think goes on the bottom when we're talking about percent? That's right, 100. 100 goes on the bottom. So we're saying 12 is to 32, and what's that percentage? Percentage being on the top of 100, right? So just like normal, we do our cross multiplication. Equals 1200, and we divide both by 32. What is that number? There it is. So we get x equals 37.5. Alright, now are we done? No, we're not done because they asked for a percentage. So remember, when we found from a fraction, we just simply add a percentage on the end. We don't move the decimal. Alright, so we are left with 37.5%. That's what 12 out of 32 equals. Very simple stuff, right? Not that hard. You should be able to accomplish this. Again, if you get stuck, continue to watch the video or ask for some help. But I think this should look very familiar, and you should have no problem being successful at solving these problems. So let's turn the page and try another example. All right, what number is 15.5% of 450? Ooh. All right, so we're still going to use this kind of form, our proportions. So what number is 15.5% out of 450? Okay, so what the numbers that we know we're going to set it up. Our percentage, we're just going to keep it on the right side. Make it simple, so that we know what we're doing. So we're talking about 15.5 out of 100, right? Percent. Okay, now we're going to figure out where does the 450 go? Well, it says of 450. So remember, like 15% is out of 100. Well, we're talking about 15.5% out of 450. So our 450 is going to go on the bottom. So now we're solving for that x. So we get 100x equals 69.75. Divided by 100. And we get 69. I want to make sure I got this right. Yeah, 69.75. All right, are we done? Are we finding percentage, or are we finding a number? We are finding a number, so we are done. Right? They gave us this percentage. These are percents, and we're finding the number that goes up here. Okay? So be careful about how it's worded. Remember, think about those words. They're really important. Let's do another example like this one. So another example is, what number is 11.4% of 330? So we have 11.4 out of 100, and we're taking it out of 330. Okay? So that's how you set it up. You guys can do the math, and eventually after all the math, we would get 37.62. Now be careful about your rounding. Some things will add in, round to the nearest hundredth, round to the nearest tenth. So be careful about some of those problems on how to round your numbers. Okay, let's look at another example, and then let's look at the real world example. On page, oh, never mind, let's do example number 3. 78 is 60% of what number? 78 is 60% of what number? So we've got 60 out of 100, but now the thing is, it's worded a little bit differently. It says 78 is 60%. So what's equal to? 78 is equal to 100. Is it taken out of? No. 78 is what should go on top. Remember, the things on top go together. So I'm going to draw red, and then things on the bottom go together too. So we're trying to figure out what is it out of. So that's our x. Okay, so remember, they're directly comparing is that saying 78 is the same as 60% out of 100. So we've got to figure out what it's out of. So when we do that math, 60x equals 7800 divided by 60. We get x equals 130. And that is our final answer. So again, be careful about that wording. Alright, now let's do the story problem. Baseball. The table shows the batting statistics for one season for Derek Jeter of the New York Yankees. If he had 639 at-bats, what percent of his at-bats were singles? Round to the nearest tenth. So we have to use our chart to help us find some of the data. So we know we're trying to find a percentage. So we can already kind of set up our problem, x over 100. Alright, we already know that. That's what we know. We just got to figure out, where does 639 go? So if we look at the singles, oh, it says that there are 151 singles. So out of a total, he went up to bat 659 times, 39, excuse me, and out of those, he hit 151 singles. So that's going to be on our top. 151 out of 639. Okay, so did you catch that? Remember, we're using the chart that's giving us our information. It said this is the total, remember, and the total we're talking about out of percent as well. And so we're talking about a number, it's a part of the total. So 151, that's why it's on the top. And we're trying to find out what part out of 100 would it be. So our percent. So we do the math, and eventually you would get x equals, sorry, some of the screen orientation got off. But x would equal 23.6. Are we done? Are we done? No. Percent. We had to try to find the percent. So what that means is that about 24% of the time that Derek Jeter goes up to bat and hits the ball, he's going to hit a single. Statistically, that's what it's shown, is that in the past season, that's how he hit. 24% of the time, about 1/4 of the time he stepped up to bat, he would hit a single. Okay, so go ahead and work on your assignments. Raise your hand if you need help, and as always, I will see you in real life.